Hello and welcome to episode 48 of Around the Lens. I'm your host, David J. Murphy. Around the Lens, in case you've never heard of this show before, is a live weekly visual journalism roundtable show coming at you every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Although it's not Monday, it's Tuesday. Monday last night was Halloween, so we did not have a show. But we're having a show tonight on Tuesday. So we do this every week, almost regardless. And we got a great show for you tonight. We're a little bit light-staffed in the area of panelists tonight, but we're going to have a great show regardless. Going to have a lot to talk about, a lot of great topics. My co-host, Zach, is out on the road doing presidential documentation stuff, the election and coverage and whatnot. And we're going to talk all about election stuff on episode 50 on November 14th. So make sure to tune into that. It's going to be our big super show with 8 panelists. So it's going to be pretty awesome. But on to tonight's show. Our panelist this evening is Cam Bucher. I hope I'm saying your last name right. Is that right, Bucher?
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. All right, great. Cam, why don't you go ahead and tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your experience?
My name is Cam Bucher. I'm 27. I'm a freelance photojournalist in San Diego, California. I currently go to school for photojournalism and journalism. And I freelance for the Palomar College. It's a small college in San Marcos, California. And I currently freelance for the Union Tribune and a couple other news sources here in San Diego.
Nice. Are you from San Diego originally?
Not originally. I'm from southern New Hampshire originally, about an hour outside of Boston. I've been here for about 6 years, so I call it my home. So,
where what got you down there? Because I mean, honestly, I love San Diego. I would live there if I could.
It's a crazy story. It's an incredible place, incredible weather all year round. No clouds, and great surf. But yeah, I just ended up down here about 6 years ago. I lived in LA. I lived in near Orange County. I've bounced around a lot, and then about 2.5 years ago, I ended up down here in San Diego, and I absolutely love it. So, but I still commute up to LA often for work, freelance gigs or anything like that. So I'm back and forth.
Yeah, I spent 3 months in San Diego back in 05 or so, 04, 05, somewhere around there. Anyways, it was a wonderful city, very clean, very nice, beautiful scenery. I could talk to you all night about, La Jolla and the beaches and that pier with the sunset where it hits like the horizon, then it turns green, and kite surfing, and the what is it, the Spanish district or something like that with the Mexican restaurants. I don't even.
Yeah, Old Town. Yeah.
And the gas lamp district. Oh, the gas lamp district. So many memories.
Yeah,
but that we'll save that for our other podcast, San Diego, the San Diego podcast. And we'll have you on that. But great to have you on the show tonight. You said you've been doing
thank you.
photojournalism for school, which is great. We talk about education and the importance of education, and some people argue that the education that you get, you can teach yourself almost photojournalism or photography, on your own through like YouTube videos and online resources are so prevalent nowadays. And other people argue that, obviously the education you get at school is going to condense, because they're going to take, you could learn the same sort of stuff, but you kind of condense 10 years worth of experience into, a 2 or 4 year degree. What are your thoughts? Why did you choose to get a formal education in photojournalism vice learning it on your own, or what so many have done, or so many preach?
That's a great question. And actually it's funny because I thought the reason why I joined the classes is because to get professional feedback of people in the field already. I found myself, I am a self-taught photographer. A lot of people are self-taught. I still shoot a lot of black and white film. I still develop my own film. I still keep it very basic. But the thing about it is I'm around teachers who were in the field for 15, 20 years as photojournalists. I'm around people that can give me real feedback. I mean, I can only look at my work so long and be like, oh, this is good or whatnot. And you have to have another eye or another set of eyes to tell you, hey, this is a good direction, but this is what you need to work on, or this is what you need to do to make it better. And I also currently, I seek out, people in the field, mentors, people that are staff photojournalists for big papers, or people that are open to giving feedback. So that's something that is invaluable to me personally. Education, reading blogs or just looking over your work is only going to help you so far.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that any photographer, if you want to grow in this field, photojournalism, wedding photography, whatever niche you subscribe to, feedback is going to be the single most effective means by which you will ever grow. And if you don't get feedback, or if you live in a vacuum or a chamber that I'm trying to think of the word here, a chamber that you hear only good stuff from
Right.
people, you're never going to grow.
Like my friends, I mean, I have a lot of friends that are
echo chamber. That's what I was worried.
Exactly. Like I do my best not to. I have a couple of friends that are very talented photographers, but I do my best not to show them a lot of my work, especially my very personal work, the stuff I'm working on that means a lot to me, because they're always going to start with positive things, and they're always like, "Oh, this is great, Cam. This is nice." But at the end of the day, I kind of want someone to be like, "You can do better than this," or "This is okay, but do this differently." I think that shows more growth than just positives. And I think constructive criticism is definitely the most important thing. You know.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about critique last week, and my sort of take on it is I want to. If there's good stuff about photo, I'll say there's good stuff, but if there's bad stuff about it, I won't sugarcoat it. And I think if you're not looking at a photograph with the potential to see where it can be better, I think you're doing a disservice to the person whose photograph you're looking at. Because I think anything that can be done better. So, even a great photograph, you might be able to look at it and give critique and give feedback on. So that's good. Keep on seeking that's honest critique from people. I wish there were more sites devoted to honest critique. There was one I loved many years ago that is no longer around, but just find those people who you trust to give you feedback, and that's where you got to go. Whether it's obviously a college like you've chosen, or again in the professional world, find those people you trust and seek their advice. But let us get on with the show tonight. We got a lot to talk about. Our first topic this evening is all about World Press Photo, the prestigious organization that has been known for one of probably the most well-known and most well-regarded photo contests in the world. And basically, they've been beset by people who don't understand what photo manipulation is, or staging, or all the different rules that we as photojournalists have to abide by when we take a photograph. And in previous competitions, up to 20% of the images or the submissions had to be disqualified for having either image manipulation done in post or in pre-staging and whatnot. So to counteract this, they are coming out with a photo contest where there are technically no rules. So you can use Photoshop, you can manipulate whatever you want to do. And I'm going to make a prediction. Steve Curry's going to win it. Just my take on it. But anyways, considering his experience manipulating. But what do you think about this? I mean, do you think this is a positive, or is this going to be a bad influence on other photo contests? What's your take?
I have a little bit of issue with it, considering they call it, documentary. To me, documentary is completely Photoshop free, and I feel like changing any of those moments or things that are in that frame takes the value out of that moment. It's entirely different. We live in a Photoshop world. We live with this generation of high-end DSLRs are easy to get. It's easy to make photos. You have iPhones, and people are quick to constantly change things. I just feel like that's not representative of that contest. I feel like it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't even come off as really a photo contest, in my opinion. It's more like an art contest, because you're not judging the quality of the image. You're judging the person on how well they can manipulate and stage. And if you're manipulating, staging, or you're creating essentially art, then it's an art contest. It's an art photo contest. It's not anywhere near documentary. It cannot use that. Creative documentary photography is what they call it here, and that feels like a misnomer. It feels like misleading.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I feel like it's kind of a little slap in the face to people that are out there in the field working hard and doing honest documentary work that helps a lot of people and cures a lot of the causes. There's a lot of pictures out there that have changed a lot of things in the world, and that's incredible. So I feel like it's just not a good idea.
The one thing I will say that I would find as a positive to this creation of this contest is that, and I think World Press Photo is also hoping that this contest is an outlet for those people who would normally submit manipulated imagery to the regular photo press contest. So it's like, hey, instead of submitting your stuff that's a lie to a real legitimate contest and us having to disqualify it, here, put it in this bucket right here of this manipulated photo contest.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't manipulate. I personally don't even use Photoshop. So it's just funny to me how you're making a photo, not taking it. You know what I mean? Like at that point, it's not even, it should be in the documentary realm.
No, I mean, you're being judged on your skill at Photoshop, essentially, or whatever tool you use to create and craft an image.
Right,
Which
and
I think there can be merit in a sense, but only in a purely artistic sense.
Yes, correct. It's I know a lot of people are great at Photoshop, and they can make some stuff look incredible. And that's an art form in itself. Yeah, I can't imagine doing it.
You mentioned you don't use Photoshop, but like, what's your workflow? Is it mostly Photo Mechanic then, or Lightroom?
I just use Lightroom right now, and that's simple. I just throw it up, maybe change exposure a little bit, and that's really about it. I try to do the best I can in camera with what I have, and that's that. Straightforward.
Yeah. Have you noticed any of your peers? I mean, you say you're a student, so you're working with other people who may be less experienced or learning at also learning along with you. Have you seen any of them either in classroom discussion or perhaps working in the editing room do things that perhaps you've had to correct them on and say, no, that is not ethical, or just in classroom discussion explain why manipulation? I don't know if you were in class or a student when Steve McCurry's case came about, but was there any discussion about that?
We actually talked about it a couple weeks ago in class, and actually I brought it up because we're talking about ethics, and MPPA standards, and a couple of the kids in my class were confused about ethics and what you can and cannot do, and they're quick to say, oh, you can't use Photoshop, why not? And so that spurred a big discussion. But yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that Steve McCrurry kind of has this label now as a Photoshop photographer when, I mean, he was the last person to shoot Kodachrome. He was, he's recognized as one of the best photographers. And it's just a couple of things that happen that make him have a bad mark on his name. And I find him, I mean, incredible. I don't see a problem with his work, but a couple of things happen, and
So you still respect him as a photojournalist?
I do. I think a lot.
Even though he doesn't consider himself a photojournalist.
Correct. He says he doesn't. Maybe just as a photographer, I mean, his prior work in the 80s and 90s, and of course, Afghan Girl. I mean, he's trying to help her get out of jail at this point because she's been arrested. And so he's emotionally invested in his subjects, which is great.
Yeah, I'm not saying I think he's a great person. I think he's doing a lot of good things for a lot of people. I don't question him or his foundation, but I've lost all credibility in him as a photojournalist, not just for the images that were manipulated on his personal blog, but the subsequent stories that came out about his staging imagery all the way back from his India photo shoot in National Geographic to the revelations that came out about even the slight tweaks that were done to photos that were on covers of National Geographic, to include his Afghan Girl, which did receive some light photoshopping. Whether or not they were done by National Geographic or not, he allowed or knew that stuff had happened. So I lost all credibility for him as a photojournalist when that happened. So that's my general take on it. I mean, he is a great photographer, but he's at most a photo artist, in my opinion. He is
Okay.
in no way a documentary photographer nor a photojournalist, nor will I ever consider anything he ever does in the future or everything he has done in the past to be, not tainted by essentially what he allowed. Because again, he's never said he was a photojournalist. He just documented this stuff that was revered as photojournalism and revered by the community, and was sort of applied this label, and he just went with it. But I don't. It's heartbreaking, really, because again of his legacy.
Right.
But it's the facts as far as what has been reported, what I know, and my opinion of that. But as a person and as a photographer, I don't have an issue with him. But as a photojournalist, yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad, and I think it's funny. Like if he can break the rules, he's still on assignment, and people are still hiring him. And how does that work then? I mean, if he's still doing these things and tweaking, how can you go on photojournalistic assignments and still keep doing these things? And I don't know. That's interesting to me.
I don't know. I don't know why anyone would hire him for anything of a photojournalism nature. I know he's done like advertising photography. I believe he did like a photo shoot for some clothing line or something in Africa. I don't know. I think we talked about it on an earlier episode. Excuse me.
Oh, okay.
But as far as like, I know National Geographic would never hire him again for photojournalism. Anyways, I don't know. I have no idea what assignments he's in on or whatever he's doing in his professional life. I just know if I ever see anything that's done by him, I will immediately question it. And that's just the sad part of it is.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and move on. I do definitely looked interesting to see what kind of outcome this award will have. I look interesting to see, what will be the winner, what will be the entries. I will say it is interesting to see what will happen with this. I applaud World Press Photo for at least trying something like this. Good or bad, it'd be interesting to see what happens. All right, so our next story tonight is all about informed consent. We've talked about this in the past on other shows, sort of, do you ask the subject if you can take their photograph, essentially? And the general answer is that, and it's been identified, and again, this is from an article in Petapixel where two photojournalists have talked about sort of their idea of how they interpret informed consent. And the essential thesis of what they're trying to say is that you can't really, in certain cases, get informed consent because people won't know what informed is or what consent is. So in certain instances where you're shooting, for instance, like an NGO, you're dealing with people who may not speak English. So if you have this press release or this model release and you're trying to explain it to them, they may not understand. It's all legalese. And then, informed, people don't know how their imagery is going to be used because, photo you take today may not be used in the same way it's going to be used 20 years from now. 20 years from now, maybe used in a completely different way. Somebody might take that image and use it however they want to use it. So the idea of informed consent is kind of a misnomer because you can never really get it. And then ultimately it ruins the spontaneity of trying to capture any image if you have to. As an example used in the story that's published here, if the police are beating someone and you want to take a photograph of them beating the person, you have to be like, hey, police, can you stop for 1 second? Sir, can you sign this? Great, thank you. Okay, continue the beating. Let the beatings continue.
Right. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, Cam, what's your take on this? What do you think about what do they talk about in class about stuff like this?
I think in situations that are so spur of the moment, like a police beating or something that's 1/1000th of a second moment, it doesn't make any sense to even think about getting their consent. It's your job to just document that moment in time and just be as honest as you can. And I think in class, my teacher, I think she would agree. I don't, you can't, especially in countries where they don't speak English or things are happening so quickly. I don't think it's possible to get consent at the time. I mean, it's just too much going on, especially in war-torn countries. Or I love Lindsay Addario and her work, and um, she's on assignment for time, and she's helping refugees. I mean, there's no way that she's getting, it just doesn't make any sense. It wouldn't be beneficial or too cumbersome.
Yeah, I mean it's really unrealistic, and it's also just it's going to ruin whatever moment you're trying to capture. Now they go on to talk about the basic, informed consent doesn't necessarily have to mean you are an indecent person or that you aren't taking into consideration the people you're photographing. It does, it's basically created, or you have these organizations that go with their lawyers and tell photographers to get someone to sign a 3-page document written by a lawyer asking for a release, because there's this distrust of the photographer who's going into perhaps a area like a refugee camp or something and taking pictures, and it's a lack of trust in the photographer, basically, to understand and communicate with the people he's photographing or they're photographing. So what do you do to essentially get a photograph of someone, and how do you communicate with them to ensure that you're doing something that is ultimately trying to you're trying to create an image, but obviously involve someone? So how do you approach them to get that image, or what kind of considerations do you take if you want to communicate with the person you're taking a photograph that there's a sort of agreement there?
I think it depends on the situation. For instance, yesterday I had a photograph aftermath of a fire in a nearby town in a school building, and the fire ripped through the building, and people were cleaning it out. And the cleanup crew was there, and I had to get permission to get in and take photos. And then they know I'm there. We talk beforehand, and then after I take photos, I always let them know, this is for a website, or can I have your name for this article? I always get consent after, and most time people are fine with it. They understand it's news, and they're totally okay with that. I mean, there's other moments. I mean, I've photographed protests and downtown San Diego, and no, I don't have time to go up these people who are angrily screaming and fighting for their cause. I don't have time to go up and get every name. So it just depends on the situation. And I think as long as you handle everything with respect, and they know you're there, and you're honestly portraying everything as is happening, then most people are fine.
Okay. Yeah, I've always tried to get the image. If I see something that's spontaneous happen, I'll try and get the image, and then after the fact, go up to the person, maybe get their name. Obviously, if I'm doing photojournalism, get their name, get their information, and try and kind of build that bond. Sometimes you'll get the please don't, publish my image or whatever. But for the most part, they're congenial about it. And sometimes when I've been sort of just feature hunting and I find relatively innocent photographs of people I'm shooting that are just nice scenes for a family or a child doing something cute, whatever, I'll definitely try and communicate with the parents or with the child or with the family, and give them my business card and say, hey, you can find I'll send you a copy of the photograph anytime, to try to build that relationship and build that connection, and be essentially a good neighbor. What do you think, Nick?
Hey, David. I made it.
You made it, buddy. How you doing?
Good. Sorry, I got my times off.
It's okay. We were talking about informed consent, the second story or second article in our show notes, which, by the way, you can follow at aroundthelens.com. You can follow along with us. So what are your thoughts on informed consent?
To be honest, I did not look at that article yet.
Just read it over. It's only 3,000 words. We'll give you time.
Yeah, no big deal.
The basic gist of it is essentially that you got people saying, you got photojournalists saying that informed consent is a misnomer. For one, the words don't really mean anything, and two, it ruins the spontaneity of trying to get a photograph. So essentially, when you're trying to photograph somebody, what do you do? Do you ask them? Do you ask them after the fact? How do you get people to, do you care if people even, like the fact that you're photographing them? What's your kind of take on how you photograph people?
I mean, it all depends on the situation. I mean, if it's a breaking news situation and everything's kind of uncontrollable, I mean, you don't really have a chance to ask.
Yeah.
In that case, if it's a smaller kind of breaking news event, like I've been at some house fires and things before where people, come up and they say, hey, look, I really don't, want you taking my picture. I mean, if I've taken their picture already, what's done is done. But in some cases, if I already have, what I need to say, okay, I understand, like, thanks for your time, etc. But, in other situations, if it's, when I was interning and doing a lot of feature type of stuff, festivals, things like that, yeah, I'll go up and ask, the parent of a kid that's doing something, etc. Hey, you mind if I take you guys pictures, hang out for a little bit? And a lot of times you have to wait for that spontaneity kind of return, so they're not really aware of the camera. But yeah, that's kind of my feeling about it, what I typically do.
Okay. Any thoughts on our first story about the World Press Photo Contest? A contest allowing manipulated imagery. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've got a few thoughts on that.
All right, good to hear. All right, our next topic. Oh, wait. Oh, you want to tell your? Okay, what are your thoughts?
Just briefly, I mean, I think it's good that they're kind of splitting that apart, and because it was very obvious over the last couple of years in that competition in particular that digital manipulation and photo stories that were kind of, the quality of them were like made you wonder, was this set up? Was this real, etc. Things were just kind of getting muddled. So I think it's good that they set apart a whole different competition for people that do want to do that kind of photography, so that we're not, your true press photographers that aren't setting things up, etc., participating in digital manipulation, don't have to, compete against that.
Yeah, as I was mentioning to Cam, I thought, at the hope is that the people who do like to manipulate their imagery or don't have the ethical background to, I guess, understand what photojournalism is,
right,
hopefully they'll glom onto this manipulated contest, and then the regular World Press Photo Contest won't have to be as mired in trash, I would say.
Exactly. It'll definitely eliminate some of the controversy that has followed the World Press Photo Competition the last couple of years. Seems like especially this last year, there was article after article after they announced the results of just people tearing everything apart.
I mean, it's unavoidable, it's just because people, I don't know, they don't read rules or understand or care. I think it also, it's a world contest. So, you're getting entries from the entire world, and not every country or journal has the same journalism standards and ethics as perhaps the United States or England or more first world countries. Third world countries may have more lax ideas. You may have people who have never gone and received professional training, or have any, just had a camera. That's the side effect of everyone being able to access a camera.
Yeah, exactly. And you hope that the guys that are working for Reuters and like the wire services over there are being true to the story, because those wire services kind of expect that. You hope that they do a good job of weeding anything out that looks like it's been heavily manipulated, etc. But it's hard to say.
Definitely. Well, Nick, tell people who you are so they know who's talking to them right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Nick Oxford. I'm a photojournalist in Oklahoma City. I'm a freelancer here. I shoot mostly news stories, do a little bit of corporate work.
What time zone are you in?
Central.
See, I'm in Central as well. So I think you must have. You must have been on Central tonight. Anyways,
I messed something up. Yeah.
And what's been up to since the last time you were on the show?
Well, I've been really busy. I've actually been. I was up in Tulsa during all of the, the big story that happened back in September, the police shooting that happened up there.
Right.
I was up there for a couple of days covering that, and it was really interesting. Especially seeing a lot of photos from other photographers that I knew that were taking photos in North Carolina, kind of seeing the contrast between the two things. Because Tulsa, as far as I know, was completely peaceful protesting the whole time.
Right.
And, seeing friends and other photographers that I'm familiar with covering just the craziness that was happening in North Carolina, the contrast between those two things was really interesting.
Yeah. All right, cool. Glad to have you back on. It's been a while, but glad to have you back.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked so far in this episode about photo manipulation. We've talked about informed consent. Our final topic this evening is all about the gear, as we like to talk about gear of the week. And it's been quite a week for gear, specifically computers. So, obviously our cameras are the tools we use to capture imagery, but our computers are the tools we use to do everything else with the imagery. And Windows and both Microsoft and Apple have released new computers. So let's talk about those computers we got. First up from Apple, we've got the refreshed MacBook Pros with their touch bar. And from Windows, we've got the refreshed Surface Book and also the Surface Studio. So what do you guys think of these computers? Are either of them interesting to you? Are you diehard one particular company or the other? Or what are your takes on these machines?
I think they're great. I'm not in that price point to even think about bigger things. It's something I use a Mac. I love it. It's like a year old. I could never imagine upgrading in a year, like something that, it's insane. I mean, it's like the Mark IV. I mean, it's like jumping from gear to gear. I have that, they love getting the newest, brandest thing. I'm more old school. Like if it's not broken, it's all good, So yeah.
My philosophy is if it's not broken, break it so you have an excuse to buy something new.
Exactly.
What do you use right now, Cam?
It's a MacBook Pro.
13 or 15? Okay.
13-inch, yeah.
Yeah, I got the MacBook Pro 15-inch. I got like 2 years ago. It's a perfectly serviceable machine. I will not upgrade probably for at least 3 more years. But I do find the touch bar interesting. I don't know how useful it would be for what I do. I mean, I was looking at some stuff and sort of the demos, and I thought it's interesting, but I don't know. It honestly feels kind of like a gimmick, in all honesty, for me. I don't see myself using it. I'll have to go to an Apple store and play with it. I'm a little bit more intrigued by what Microsoft is doing, honestly. But, despite the cost, when you go to upgrade, perhaps in a few years or whenever, you have that opportunity, Cam, do you think you'll upgrade to this Mac? Is this something when you come up to buy a new Mac with the touch bar and the USB-C ports, is that something you're going to do?
No, I don't think so. I'd rather put my money in like lenses or, maybe in a few years what the Mark IV will cost. I feel like I have removable hard drives. I have a running MacBook and they last forever anyways. So, God forbid anything happens, and yeah, I guess I have to look into it, but it wouldn't be on my radar.
You're going to use that computer until it dies?
Yeah, 100%. Because I used PCs before, and I'll never ever go back to a PC after working with a Mac and using Lightroom on a Mac and editing on a Mac. So yeah, I mean, it wouldn't make sense, and I don't know. I think thinking about gear takes away from your job out there and all that stuff. So
okay, what do you take on this, Nick?
Well, yeah, I actually just bought a new iMac a year ago, so I'm not in the market to upgrade my desktop anytime soon. I was looking at a new MacBook Pro, however, but the new MacBook Pro I'm not super impressed by. I mean, that touch bar is kind of interesting, but once again, like you mentioned, it's for what I do, wouldn't really be useful. It'd be one of those features that I would never use. And also, they took away all of the USB ports on it. You have to.
No, you have 4 USB ports, 4 USB-C ports.
Yeah. The USB-C,
it so burns me up that they took away the SD card reader. That is
for photographers.
What are you talking about there?
I mean, it's a MacBook Pro. It's for professionals that are going to be using it every day. And many of those people, photographers. I mean, it's so nice just to be able to pop an SD card into the side of that. I mean, I think it's just stupid. And now you're going to have to buy a USB-C to USB 3.0 adapter, and you're going to have all these dongles and stuff like that. I saw a lot of articles mentioning that.
Plus they got rid of the my favorite feature, the magnetic power cord. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
the MagSafe
life.
power adapter.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so, I mean, one of your ports automatically, if you're needing to be charging, oh, there goes one of your ports already.
Right.
And also, you know, I was
Especially if you got the MacBook 13-inch. I mean, you only got 2 ports to work with. So
yeah, it's crazy. And they also made it so thin that the RAM on it is really limited.
yeah, 16 gigabytes is the max.
I mean,
And I'm like,
that's crazy for a professional laptop that you're going to be using for, you know, heavy photo and video editing. That's just crazy. The new Microsoft desktop, though, the Surface with the dial and everything, that's the first thing I've ever seen that has come out from them that I've looked at it and said, I want that. You know, I could see if I did more photo retouching, having that, being able to fold it down and, you know, use that dial on it and have a touch screen and everything. I think that'd be, if I was like a professional photo editor that did a lot of, you know, retouching and things, I think that'd be something that would be really useful.
Yeah.
And it's really sleek too. I mean, it looks cooler than anything Apple has come out with in the last few years, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued more so by what Microsoft is doing in the computer space right now. I mean, honestly, if I were in the market for a new laptop right now, I would seriously consider the Surface Book. I think having that capability to detach and make a tablet, but also having an awesome laptop and also the spec bumps, you know, with the new version, the 16-hour battery life, the increase in power. It's definitely an attractive computer.
Oh, absolutely. Those Surface Books, that's another thing. You know, I've looked at those a little bit because, you know, for transferring photos from the field, like if I'm ever shooting for Reuters and I'm having to transfer on deadline, pulling my big heavy MacBook Pro in and out of my bag and finding somewhere to have to set it up, it's a big pain. But that Surface Book it's awesome. It's so thin, and I think that would be really great to use and file photos from.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I love the idea of the Surface Studio. I would never buy it, although I probably would buy it, but I would never use it as it was intended. Like, I could see myself having it set up and then I would just browse the internet or whatever, or look at photos, but I would never use the puck or the pen for what it was really intended for. So it would be, I would say, criminally underused if I ever bought it. I actually have a 10-point multi-touch 27-inch screen to my direct right, just off screen here, that is connected to my MacBook, and the multi-touch does not work on a Mac. It works on PC just fine. So it's literally just an additional monitor I have. So this thing is great. It's got 10-point multi-touch. So it's like using a big iPad, if you will, and it also bends down to, you know, just like the Surface Pro or Surface Studio, to where you can use it like a drafting table. But I've never really done it like that. So it's
I mean, I think it's that Surface Studio. I think that's going to be a game changer for graphic artists. Yeah. I mean, if I worked, you know, extensively in Illustrator, Photoshop, stuff like that, designing things, I would sell my iMac and get that right away.
I've got a friend of mine who's an artist, and I already tell he's got this thing pre-ordered without a doubt. That dial and that pen and the fidelity. I mean, he uses the Cintiq Wacom computer right now, so this will be his next upgrade without a doubt. Cam, you said obviously you're the Mac, you're loving the Macs, no interest in the Windows, but does anything Microsoft first of all, did any of the announcements by Microsoft intrigue you at all? Or second question, would anything Microsoft release ever convince you to switch back to Windows or come to Windows?
You know, I'm kind of lame. Like, I don't get excited about that stuff. Like, I don't ever like look into like computers and like, you know, what Macs are putting out or what Mac's putting out. I don't really read up too much of that stuff. I wish I did. But of course, I think in the future, you know, if something come up, you know, every year they're making changes to everything they're putting out. So I can never say never. I mean, maybe in a few years they could put something out that I'm like, wow, like I want to give that a shot, or I would love to, you know, buy that. But until then, I mean, I don't really read up too much on it. I feel out of it.
It's like, as long as your computer can edit photos you're good.
Yeah, because I mean, it's just I'm easy. I'm super simple. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not into the big graphics chomping games or anything like that for the computer.
No, I mean, when I was a kid, I was a big like PlayStation guy, but like, I mean, that's obviously phased out. But other than that, like, nah.
Okay. Great. So that is the big talk on the computer stuff. It's interesting. I definitely think Microsoft's doing a lot more interesting stuff than Apple right now. I'm a little dismayed where Apple's going and kind of the direction it's going at.
Me too. It's awful.
Yeah. I do like the touch. I like that they have the Touch ID in the keyboard now. I think that was a smart decision.
I would use that.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm not in the market to upgrade my MacBook, and I don't know what I'm going to do in 3 more years or 4 more years or whenever I decide to upgrade this thing. Whether or not I'm going to go back to whatever Apple is offering or whatever Microsoft is offering, I don't know.
Yeah,
I switched from the iPhone a couple of years ago. No interest in going back there.
Yeah, I've always used Apple for all of my stuff: iPhone, MacBook Pro, iMac, everything. But lately, the iPhone 7, I wasn't super impressed with it. I'm actually thinking about that Google Pixel phone. I think that thing looks awesome. The camera on it looks great.
Hey, have you heard of the Note 7? I hear that is the phone to get.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's got this neat feature. It's actually if you lose it or if somebody steals it, you can actually set to self-destruct.
Yeah, or use it as a hand warmer in the wintertime. Great for skiing.
Yeah. Or a hand burner.
Yeah.
All right.
They got a rough rap on that for sure.
So I'm sure you both guys are fully prepared to give me your pick of the week and that you know what the pick of the week is.
I am.
You are? Really? You ready?
You
ready? You got something? All right. Cam, you got something? You got something in the lineup? Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
I'll have to hear Nick. Nah, I can Nick first and have him go.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. All right, Nick. You got it.
So there was this really interesting article. Petapixel and PhotoGrid shared it on Facebook. The article is on Petapixel's site, but it's the life and photos of Ernest Brooks. He was a big World War I photographer in the British Army and kind of pioneered like modern war photography. And I had never really heard of him a whole lot or seen much of his work, but it was a really interesting article about a photographer I didn't know a whole lot about.
Great. I will go because I know that Cam's probably still looking. Hey, so we had Halloween here last night. Did you guys dress up for Halloween? Did you do anything for Halloween?
No.
No parties? You didn't shoot people in costumes or anything like that?
Nope. I was boring.
All right. I took my son trick-or-treating. That is what I did for Halloween. Anyways, this guy decided to make a Nikon costume. So he built this thing out of cardboard and tape, and it looks like a bucket and things here. And actually, it's pretty ingenious. Made a neat little Nikon costume with a screen and everything.
It works, right?
Apparently, it looks like it. It's got dials and everything here. This guy went all out. This high production quality. So pretty neat. I've never seen. Oh yeah, he's got photographs from it and everything. That's smart.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because you get people instantly attracted to what you're doing. You're like, whoa, look at that camera thing. Then you shoot a photograph too. So really neat Halloween costume there. Nikon camera. I can't wait to see the guy who does the Canon camera next year. Yeah, go check that out. Links will be in the show notes. Cam.
I'm looking. I got nothing. I should have prepared for that one.
Cam.
Yeah. I wish I was more prepared for that one. I don't have it.
Oh, it's all right.
I've got a second one if you need one.
Nick, hit us with the one. Cover for Cam.
The National Press Photographers Association.
Never heard of it.
Both of you are members or not, but anyway, they are coming out with a new insurance program for members, which I think is really cool.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's something that I think has kind of been needed from them for a long time because the old insurance program was just not very adequate for what most freelancers need. And this one looks really affordable and, has a $250 deductible, which is kind of unheard of. you know, it's nice,
When I
for
saw that,
freelancers that may not have a whole lot of gear.
So when you say insurance, are you talking about gear insurance or health insurance?
Well, it's actually both. You can get gear insurance through them and also general liability insurance. So
Okay.
if you are doing a lot of corporate work where you're having to set up light stands, well, it'd be good to have that liability insurance in case, one of your lights falls over and knocks your subject in the head.
Yeah.
Hopefully not, but
Or
it's
if
good
you
to
ask,
have. So.
No, I saw that. I saw that as well, and I've been looking at insurance as well, and I think since I'm part of the NPPA as well, I think is incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
So how did this compare to their old insurance policy?
I'm not sure. I didn't have their old insurance policy because other NPPA members had said not to get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you know, Cam, what their old insurance policy was, or?
No, I looked on forums actually too, and no one ever stood by it, so I didn't really think too much of it.
Yeah, I don't think many of the members used it.
Yeah, must have been not very good or memorable for neither of you guys to know what it was about.
Right. But I'm definitely going to switch to this one because the deductible on it is lower than my current insurance deductible. So.
Okay. Great. Cam, did you think of anything? Or are you still blanking?
No, but I mean, I'm still blanking on it. But yeah, the NPPA thing, I should have thought of that. I saw the email yesterday, and I should have went with that. Because I've never had insurance before with my gear. So I've been looking at different APA and all different types of insurances, and I think it's be a good bet.
Well, since you mentioned gear, and since obviously computers don't really do anything for you, what do you shoot with?
Canon 5D Mark III.
Okay, good camera, good workhorse camera.
But I was, yeah, it's great. I was using a 70D before, and I finally upgraded. I bought refurbished, which I mean, I do swear by refurbished. It gets checked twice. It's great. It's usually way cheaper.
Yeah.
And it's brand new.
That's great.
So yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you talked about the 5D Mark IV. Like you said, you're probably going to wait till that goes down in price, or you can get it used, I'm guessing. Yeah, I've been more and more kind of thinking about when I purchase things to go used, especially with more of the technology stuff. Like, for instance, the phone I had, because I had to get rid of my Note 7 because it was a smoking hazard. I had to get rid of that, and so I bought a Galaxy S7e, and I bought that. Edge, and I bought that off of Amazon used, and it was like $300 less than what they were selling it for new for. So
nice.
Buying used is the way to go. And I'll probably be selling all my old Canon camera equipment. So if you want a second body, if you're looking for a 5D Mark II with some lenses, you let me know. I'll hook you up.
Yeah, I think we live in such a great world where Craigslist and eBay and buying used and refurbished, it's just buying new is just out the window completely. I bought a Canon 35 1.4 used mint condition for $700. You can't even, and it was incredible.
Well, especially camera bodies, they just depreciate so much faster than lenses hold their value if they're good lenses. But camera bodies, I mean, they're coming out with new ones so often. It's just, you buy one brand new and it's going to be worth $1,000 less a year later.
Yeah, with my Canon or with my Panasonic camera, I've not bought a single lens new for it. Every lens I bought, except for one, I bought one, but it was like $20 or $30. So, yeah. But I mean, used is the way to go. I'll probably never buy another phone brand new again, because it's just, they depreciate so fast. Yep. 6 months later, you're going to save 30%. But anyways, all right, so let's call that a night, folks. Let's talk about how people can find out more about us. Nick, since you were late, you get to go first.
Yeah, definitely. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Nick Oxford Photo, and my website is oxfordphotojournalism.com, and you can get in touch with me via email, nickoxfordphoto@gmail.com.
Awesome.
Cam?
You can find me on Instagram and my website. My Instagram is cam_bucher. My website is cambucher.com. And you can shoot me an email. Everything's on my website.
Sweet. You can find me personally at djmphoto.com or anything DJM photo related. But of course, as always, please go to www.aroundthelens.com for everything related to the show. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Follow us on Facebook. like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Do everything I just said multiple times and tell everyone you know to do that. And that's great because we need the followers. But please, go to Around the Lens. It's the hub for all the stuff about the show, and all the links we talked about tonight are on there. So again, I want to thank you both, Cam and Nick, for being on the show tonight. It was a great show, and that was Around the Lens, episode 48. Check us out next week at our regularly scheduled Monday, 8 p.m. time slot. We got a great show for you. And other than that, happy Halloween, everybody.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye.
Thanks.